Hailed as one of the most important and influential guitarists in heavy metal, Jeff Hanneman would be instrumental in giving Slayer their iconic sound, while also serving as one of their principal songwriters. But his time would be cut short due to an unfortunate set of medical circumstances that led to a downward spiral in his personal life. That's what we're going to explore in today's video. Slayer's origins dated back to Los Angeles in 1981 when guitarist Kerry King was meeting a band holding auditions for a guitar player in the warehouse district of the city. Recalling the Guitar World, as I was leaving, I saw Jeff kind of standing around playing guitar. He was playing stuff that I was into, like Def Leppard's Wasted and AC/DC and Priest. So I started talking to him and just said, hey, you want to start a band? I already knew Dave Lombardo and we had been playing together in his parents' garage a bit, and so I brought Jeff in. Then I went to Tom Araya, who I was playing with in another band, and said, hey man, I have a different band if you're interested, and that was it. Hanneman would admit to author John Wiederhorn that he was initially intimidated by King's guitar playing, recalling, I just remembered I was scared shitless. I had been playing the least amount of time, so I sucked. I'd only been playing for like a month by the time I met Kerry, and after I saw him play, I was like, oh man, I gotta speed up the learning process. Slayer would be influenced by British metal acts, including Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and Black Sabbath. But apart from metal, Hanneman was also influenced by hardcore punk, introducing the other members to the genre and giving the band a harder edge than their contemporaries, with Hanneman telling Loudersound, we weren't schooled musicians, but we knew it sounded dark. If it sounds like I'm standing over a body that's just been stabbed to death, then it's perfect, he'd recall. Apart from King being the more technical of the two guitar players, Hanneman knew well where his strengths lie, and that was in the songwriting process. Recalling in an interview, I tried to emulate what Steve Vai and Joe Satriani did and really grow as a guitarist. Then I said I don't think I'm that talented, but more importantly, I don't care. It was during the band's early years that 3 of the 4 members had vehicles to get to and from practice, and according to Guitar World, Hanneman either had a series of DUIs or never had a license at the time, with Tom Araya telling Guitar World, when we started the band, Kerry would pick him up from the house in Long Beach and I would drop him off after rehearsal. That was the trade-off. So we spent a lot of time in the car together, usually drinking beer. I would drop him off and sometimes I'd hang with him at his house with his parents. It was around the time that Slayer released their first album, Show No Mercy, in 1983, that Hanneman would meet his life partner, Catherine. She would recall to Guitar World, my girlfriend and I were getting tired of going to the movies every weekend, so we decided to go see this band called Slayer at a little club in Buena Park called the Woodstock. They were playing with a band called Leatherwolf. I begged my father to let us go to the show, knowing that I would come home later than my 10 o'clock curfew, and he was okay with that. There may have been 15 to 20 people at the show, so I was able to stand up front against the stage on Jeff's side. Before I knew it, he kneeled down, grabbed me by the hair, and started making out with me. I was blown away, and that was how we met. The couple would stay in touch, and they would eventually marry in Las Vegas in 1989. By 1986, Slayer would release their seminal album, Rain and Blood, which featured the hugely controversial song Angel of Death. Author Paul Elliott would recall how Hanneman told him the song was written under a strange set of circumstances. Recalling, the last time I spoke to Hanneman in 2009, he explained that Angel of Death was written in the most unlikely setting, at the home of his girlfriend's parents. He laughed about the bizarre nature of the creative process. It's weird, when I'm angry the music doesn't flow, but when I'm happy the evil comes out. Hanneman would spend his years on tour with the band, visiting war museums, reading history books about World War II, with Kerry King remembering Jeff was super intelligent about history. World War II became his thing. It was Hanneman's father who was an American soldier during World War II, and he would bring his son home medals and other items taken off the corpses of German soldiers. It was that fascination with Germany's World War II history that landed the band in trouble. Hanneman would be the principal songwriter behind one of the band's best-known hits, Angel of Death. The song would be written about German scientist Josef Mengele's experiments on prisoners at the Auschwitz concentration camp. The band would draw widespread criticism, with some claiming they were sympathetic towards Germany in World War II. It resulted in their label Def Jam losing their distributor Columbia, and instead having to release the record through Geffen. With Araya telling Guitar World, Jeff wrote what he wrote, and people would analyze it and come up with their own conclusions, but to Jeff it was a song about this or that. There was no deep meaning behind anything, and a lot of the stuff he did, he knew that it would cause a reaction, he knew it would get a response, and if you're going to make a big stink about it, that's your problem. That was his attitude about it. Slayer would spend the next 3 decades releasing albums and successfully touring, and after nearly 3 decades on the road, Hanneman seemed a bit tired of the lifestyle of being in a traveling rock band telling Loudersound, the thing I personally hate out of this whole thing is traveling. I hate airports, I hate getting into a van or going someplace. I hate the whole traveling aspect. Once I get to point B, fine, but I hate the actual traveling. In 2011, it was reported that Hanneman had developed a flesh-eating disease caused by what was thought to be a spider bite. However, it was never actually confirmed if it was a spider or another insect carrying the disease. 2 years later, Hanneman would pass away due to liver failure, and it was initially reported that the cause of his death was attributed to the insect bite, which happened 2 years prior. But even before the insect bite, Hanneman was dealing with arthritic condition in his hands. His bandmates could tell the condition was impacting his playing, with Araya telling Guitar World his ability to play was slowly deteriorating. But he didn't let anybody know that. We could just tell things were going wrong. It was becoming hard to get stuff out of him. He was very proud and didn't want to make anybody worry about anything. Jeff would show up and play, and he didn't want anyone to know or worry about what else was going on with him. He tried to be really strong, and sometimes that can weigh you down. While he would see a specialist, his wife would tell Guitar World that her husband wouldn't take medication to deal with his condition. Also contributing to his condition was his lifestyle, with his wife telling Guitar World doctors wanted him to stay away from 3 of his favorite things: beer, red meat, and peanut butter, but Jeff was going to do this his way, and he would just deal with the pain on his own terms. In 2011, during an interview with Metal Injection, Hanneman told the publication he was visiting a friend sitting in a hot tub when he noticed an insect bite, saying, "Didn't even feel it, but an hour later I knew I was ill." His wife Catherine told Guitar World that the cause of his death was not an insect bite, but the downward emotional spiral the guitarist found himself in after his diagnosis and treatment. Catherine would reveal the guitarist remained at a friend's house for another week before coming home, and her realizing just how ill he was. Hanneman would have to undergo surgery on his arm, with his wife recalling that the doctor looked at Jeff and told him, and I quote, "First I'm going to try to save your life, then I'm going to try to save your arm, then I'm going to try to save your career." The guitarist would be put into a medically induced coma and undergo multiple skin grafts and more surgeries. His arm would be saved, but it was a long, painful road to recovery, with his wife telling Guitar World, "I couldn't get Jeff to go to rehab or therapy. I think he was letting the visual of his arm get to his emotions, and it was messing with his mind. It was hard to keep him upbeat at that point. I think he thought he could do this on his own, that he would just go to rehearsal and play, and that would be his rehab. But I think he started to learn once he tried rehearsing that he wasn't playing up to his ability and that he wasn't able to play guitar at the speed he used to. And I think that really hit him hard, and he started to lose hope." On April 23, 2011, Hanneman would join Slayer at the Big 4 show in Indio, California, performing 2 songs, including Angel of Death and South of Heaven. Araya would recall to Loudwire, "It was after that I think he realized he could only play for a little bit and then had to stop. He would come to rehearse and jam out some parts, and then he'd stop and just fiddle with his guitar. He did that a few times, and then he just stopped coming to rehearsal." Hanneman's life outside of Slayer resulted in him turning to the bottle. While he drank for years, he started to abuse alcohol more frequently following his father's death in 2008. His wife would tell Guitar World, "But I couldn't say much at that point because I knew we'd just wind up in a verbal confrontation about it." Slayer would reveal in a statement that the guitarist died due to an alcohol-related cirrhosis, a type of irreversible scarring of the liver. His bandmates and friends weren't aware of how bad Hanneman's health was, as he was back in the ICU days before his death. He would pass away at the age of 49. Kerry King would tell Guitar World, "Jeff and I always drank. They called Steven Tyler and Joe Perry the Toxic Twins. We were the drunk brothers. The difference being that I don't wake up in the morning and need a beer. Jeff didn't know how not to drink." At the 5th edition of the Revolver Golden God Awards on May 2nd, 2013, news had spread about Hanneman's death. Former bandmate Kerry King would take to the podium alongside Zakk Wylde to pay tribute to his departed bandmate, telling the crowd, "I've thought about this. I thought I should do a moment of silence, and I thought, F no, this is the Golden Gods, man. Jeff effing Hanneman. He played in Slayer. He does not want a moment of effing silence. Jeff wants a moment of effing noise. You've got a drink, raise it up. You got a fist, raise it up, and tip one back to our fallen brother," he would say. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. Once again, rock, roll your stories. Take care.